I was rinsing dishes when Delaney placed a mug beside me and said it calm rehearsed like it was normal. You should start packing. This house is perfect for the baby. I turned, hands still dripping the water, falling onto the tile. She was rubbing her belly like she owned the place. My place. Before I could speak, Rowan walked in all casual and warm, like it was Sunday brunch. He leaned on the counter beside her and said, "The guest room's too small for a crib." "Mom, Delaney needs the master. She'll be nursing." I just looked at him. My son. The same boy I used to carry in one arm while folding laundry with the other. "You've always said this house is too much for one person." Delaney continued, tone sweet as syrup. "It'll be better for everyone if you find a quieter place. We even toured a few rentals for you, something manageable." She said it like a kindness. A gift, like I should say thank you. I dried my hands, slowly folded the towel, and set it on the counter. My voice stayed even. "And where exactly do you plan to put me?" Rowan shrugged. "There's a unit on Grayfield, 1 bedroom, close to the bus line, the same bus line I spent 20 years commuting on so I could raise him in a real home." I didn't answer them. Not fully. Just nodded and walked out to the porch like my body needed air. They thought I'd go quietly. They didn't know what I already knew, the closed laptop. They hadn't cleared the conversation I overheard last week when they thought I was in the garden. They didn't know I'd already seen the lease agreement with my name on it, half drafted on Rowan's desktop, ready to be printed. They didn't know about the copies I'd already made, or the call I'd made the day before to a friend who owed me a favor. No, I wouldn't argue. Not yet. I'd let them believe they'd won. Let them measure curtains and discuss baby names in my house. I wasn't going anywhere except to get ready. 9 years ago, I stood alone on this porch after the funeral. The house was quiet, half-rotted, and mine. My husband Barrett had found the listing on a whim. "It's got bones," he'd said, walking the creaking floors like he already belonged. We never got to finish it together. 6 months after we signed the deed, he was gone. But I stayed. The walls were warped. The paint peeled in long, sad strips. The porch sagged like a tired sigh. It wasn't much, not then. But I saw what it could be, and I made a promise. I whispered to the rafters, "I'll bring it back to life, Barrett. Just wait and see." Rowan was already living with Delaney by then. I didn't ask them to help. Didn't want to. I needed this house to be mine, not a favor returned or a burden shared. So I learned. Books from the library, videos online. I watched and rewound and watched again. And then I did it. I hauled out old linoleum and laid each tile by hand. Cut insulation until my fingers bled. The fireplace took me 3 weeks, chipped mortar, reset every stone 1 blister at a time. The crown molding, 4 months. I stained it in the garage 1 brush stroke at a time while the heater blew dust at my ankles. I grew into the house as it grew back around me. The kitchen, where I learned to level cabinets, is the same one Delaney now wants to repaint in muted beige. The bedroom I sanded, swept, and painted while crying into a cup of cold coffee. That's the one they called better for the baby. They didn't see the weight in the walls, the labor in the floors. They just saw square footage. I hadn't inherited a home. I had rebuilt a promise. And now Delaney wanted to plant her nursery, as if that room were empty, as if my name wasn't soaked into the beams like sweat. I walked through the house again that night, touching every surface like memory. No, they couldn't just take it, but I needed more than rage. I needed a plan. It began like a slow leak, so quiet I almost missed it. One morning, I reached for my coffee mug, the one from my first solo trip after Barrett passed. It had a turquoise rim and a sun-faded logo of a tiny diner outside Santa Fe. I'd used it every morning for years. Gone. In its place sat a shiny pink mug cartoon elephant, smiling up at me, glitter embedded in the ceramic like a joke. I didn't ask. I just moved it to the back of the cabinet and made coffee in a chipped white one I barely liked. That afternoon, I came home from the store and stopped short in the doorway. The living room had been rearranged. My reading chair, Barrett's chair, was no longer angled by the window where the morning light hit just right. It was shoved to the far wall, half blocking the bookshelf. Delaney appeared behind me. "Better flow," she chirped, brushing past with a swatch of pale yellow fabric. "The sunlight's too much on that side. Bad for baby skin." I stood still while she measured the curtains. Rowan didn't even look up from his phone. The next day, I reached for crackers in the pantry and found only almond flour cookies, dried fruit, and jars labeled with organic brands I didn't recognize. My shelf, my little corner with peanut butter pretzels and saltines, was empty. "Cleared the junk out," Delaney said breezily when I opened the door too long. "We're making space for what I wanted to ask, but I didn't." Then came the baby books, stacked across the dining table like bricks in a tiny pink fortress. Pages on sleep schedules and organic formula swaddling techniques, and nursery feng shui. I heard her voice float down the hallway to Rowan. "It's honestly silly to have an entire house just for one person. Doesn't make sense. They thought I was just a body taking up space, something outdated, disposable. But I was still here, and I'd started keeping notes, not just memories, facts, dates, comments, patterns. If they were building a case to push me out, I'd build a record to stand on, because the house wasn't the only thing they were trying to erase. The guest room shares a wall with my office. I'd been sorting some old papers when I heard them muffled at first, then clearer, as I turned off the desk lamp and simply listened. Delaney's voice, tight and low. "Once we refinance under both names, she can't just take it back. It'll be ours legally." Then Rowan, quieter. "She's old. She'll cave. Just don't push her too hard too fast." I didn't move. I didn't make a sound. I simply sat still, my hands resting on the folder in front of me. My heart didn't race. It slowed. I'd already begun consulting with a legal clinic 2 weeks earlier, run by retired lawyers volunteering their time. Quiet people. Smart people. People who understood when a woman didn't want a courtroom fight, just protection. I waited until their footsteps creaked down the hallway, then slipped into the hall. Their door was closed. The house was silent again. I walked to the cabinet in the hallway where I'd kept the deed since the day Barrett and I bought the place. The lock clicked open like muscle memory. Inside, the original paperwork, notarized and dated. My name. No co-owners, no co-signers. I pulled it out and laid it flat on the kitchen table, the corners still crisp after all these years. I read every line slowly, like scripture. Then I made a copy. After that, I placed the original in a manila envelope and took it upstairs, where I tucked it inside the lining of my old suitcase, the one I hadn't used since Barrett passed. No one would think to look there. The copy I left in my office drawer. Easy to find. On purpose. Let them think I was careless, that I didn't notice the whispers, the changes, the inch-by-inch invasion. They'd mistake silence for surrender. That was fine with me, because now I didn't just have suspicions. I had evidence, and tomorrow I'd take the next step. Not loud, not public, but deliberate. I was done waiting for the storm to pass. I was becoming it. Delaney made pancakes that morning, like she was hosting brunch, not serving notice. The smell of butter and sugar filled the kitchen, warm and cloying. She moved with confidence, flipping the last round onto a plate, as if she hadn't just spent the past week slowly gutting the life I built here. She poured syrup, like it was a script. Then she said it. "We found a studio apartment for you close to the transit line, not too many stairs. Just until you get settled." I didn't touch my fork. Rowan stood by the fridge, arms crossed, eyes down. "We paid the deposit already." "It's done, Mom. Done." Like I was a project completed, a chapter closed. I folded my napkin carefully. "Did either of you ever think to ask if I was leaving?" Delaney glanced at Rowan, then back at me. Her voice softened, almost pitying. It's for the baby. He needs space, stability. She rested a hand on her belly like a shield, like justification. I looked at it then, at her. I stood without a word, walked down the hall, and returned with a plain white envelope. No names on the outside. Just wait. I placed it on the table between the butter dish and betrayal. Read this, I said. Delaney hesitated. Rowan opened it. The first page was a copy of the deed, my name, my property, sole ownership. The second page was a ledger. 6 months of utilities, groceries, household expenses. Itemized, dated, totaled. The third, a 30-day notice addressed to both of them, prepared by the same legal clinic they didn't know I'd been visiting. Rowan's face turned pale. Delaney's mouth twitched. You're evicting us. I took a sip of my coffee. I'm enforcing my rights. You've been living here rent-free. Consider this the formal correction. Neither of them spoke. I stood, adjusted my sweater, and carried my cup to the sink. The baby kicked, they said. Well, so did I. And I kicked back harder. The rest of the day, they stayed in their room, doors shut. I began making a list of everything they owed me just in case it needed to go further. The sun hadn't even reached the back deck when Rowan came to the kitchen again, clutching the envelope like it might bite him. He placed it on the counter, staring at the bold letters across the top of the deed. Zerelda Maven. Embossed, notarized, undisputed. No co-owner, no lien, no refinance. Just me. Delaney stormed in moments later, hair tied up, wearing that strained smile she used when she wanted something. This is just a technicality, she said. It doesn't have to be like this. You're being cruel? I'm pregnant. I didn't blink. I reached back into the envelope and slid out 2 folded papers. 30-day notices, I said, setting them beside the deed. Effective today. Delaney stepped back like she'd been slapped. You can't be serious. Rowan tried to speak, but I cut him off. You've lived here for 6 months. I've calculated market rent, utilities, groceries, laundry supplies, and cleaning products. Itemized. That brings your balance to just over $13,000. Due upon exit. Delaney's mouth opened, then closed again. No sound came out. I continued. You have until the end of next month to vacate. I've already contacted a notary to formalize the record. I expect no damage to the property, and I will be photographing the rooms today for documentation. Rowan finally found his voice. You'd really do this to us. I didn't do anything I said. You made choices. I'm simply responding to them. Delaney's eyes narrowed. You waited for this. You planned it. I did, I said, because I had to. There was a long silence between us, long enough to feel like truth was settling into the cracks of the floor. Rowan looked at the papers like they were foreign, like they hadn't imagined this could ever touch them. Then Delaney whispered, We'll fight this. I nodded. You're free to try, but I'd suggest reading the law first. They left the kitchen. I stayed and poured myself another cup of coffee. The bitter kind. No sugar. Then I opened the drawer beside me, pulled out my notebook, and began writing the next steps, page 1, titled, Final Inventory Before Transition. The silence was their first weapon. Delaney stopped acknowledging me entirely. Doors slammed. Cabinets banged. Her heavy footsteps made sure I knew she was still queen of some imagined castle. Rowan, on the other hand, left notes. Folded scraps of paper tucked under my mug, taped to the fridge, slid beneath my door. Can we talk? Please don't do this. Think of the baby. But it wasn't guilt. It was fear. A week before the deadline, I was slicing apples in the kitchen when Rowan appeared behind me, hands stuffed in his hoodie pockets. She tricked me, he said, voice low. She told me it was my baby. I didn't look up right away. I finished the slice, set the knife down. Then I turned. Is it? He didn't answer. His eyes dropped to the counter. He leaned against it like gravity had changed. I walked past him and picked up the manila envelope waiting on the hall table. Held it out to him. "This is the eviction filing," I said. "Sheriff will enforce it in 7 days." He didn't take it, so I set it on the counter next to him. I didn't know he mumbled. I nodded. "You didn't ask." He blinked, but I didn't stay to see if tears followed. I turned on the coffee maker and walked away. Let the silence answer for me. That night, I heard them arguing upstairs. Delaney's voice, sharp, frantic. Rowan's barely a whisper. Something fell. A drawer, maybe. Then quiet again. It started with the sound of glass. One moment, the house was still. The next, something shattered. Sharp, violent final. I didn't move. I didn't leave my room. I heard Rowan yelling. Delaney's voice high-pitched, wild, doors opening. Then silence. The kind that sinks into the walls. I stayed where I was, cup of coffee cooling in my hand, the quiet pressing in like a thick fog. Next morning, Clara knocked. She didn't bother waiting for me to answer. She came in like she always had, head down, mission clear. "You have to see this," she said, holding out her phone. It was a post on a forum I'd never heard of. Anonymous username. But the words were Rowan's. My girlfriend lied about a pregnancy to trap me. Said the baby was mine. I found out too late. The story unfolded in short, jagged paragraphs. The timeline matched. So did the city. So did the details how she'd moved into his mother's house, insisted on the master bedroom, tried to get her name on the mortgage. And then the last line. 0% probability. Confirmed by paternity test. She cheated with her ex. I sat down at the table, letting the words hit like a wave. Not pain, not shock. Relief. Clara stared at me. "You okay?" I nodded. Then I laughed. Really laughed. The kind that comes up from your ribs, messy and raw. Weeks of pressure cracked all at once. The nursery plans, the pink mug, the slow erasure of my presence, my history, my home, all of it built on a lie. A house of cards flipped by a single truth. She'd tried to trap him. She'd tried to oust me. And now the baby wasn't his. The leverage had vanished. The next morning, Rowan knocked on my bedroom door. His voice was quiet. "Can we talk?" I opened the door but said nothing. I just walked past him to start the coffee. He followed. She didn't slam a door, didn't cry, didn't scream. She just walked out. 2 wheeled suitcases, a carry-on bag, and a purse slung over her shoulder, like nothing had happened. Her hair was done. Her makeup perfect. A sleek black car pulled into the driveway, idling like it knew better than to wait. Her ex stepped out. Designer sunglasses. A quiet nod. Delaney didn't glance back. She slid into the passenger seat, shut the door, and that was it. Gone. Rowan stood at the front door for a long time after they drove off. He didn't speak, just stared down the street like he was waiting for something to come back that never would. Then quietly, he packed 2. 1 duffel bag. No fanfare. No confrontation. He left a note on the hallway table. I didn't open it. I just watched him from the porch as he pulled out of the driveway. Eyes heavy, shoulders slumped. My son. The same boy who once danced on this deck with popsicle juice on his chin. Now just a man who'd been fooled and let it happen. When the house was finally still, I walked back inside and pulled my chair, Barrett's chair, to the window again. The one Delaney had shoved against the wall to open the space. I set it right where it belonged, where the morning light always landed. I poured myself a proper cup of coffee and sat down, letting the quiet settle, not as absence but as return. This was my house again. Not just in name, in presence. The air felt cleaner. The walls no longer listening to schemes. The corners no longer crowded by baby books and glitter mugs and fake promises. Then I opened the guest room door. Clean sheets, empty hangers. No scent of perfume or spite. But not for long. because that room wasn't meant to be claimed by force or lies. It had been built with intention mine, and I knew exactly who deserved it next. I walked to my office, opened the bottom drawer, and took out a letter I'd been saving. The address was written months ago, and today it was finally time to send it. I didn't want revenge. I wanted restoration. After the house was quiet again, truly quiet, I opened the guest room windows and let the light pour in. I stripped the bed, aired, the mattress, painted the walls a soft sage green, the kind of green that doesn't demand attention but welcomes it. I bought new sheets, clean, warm, simple. Added a small desk and a sturdy bookshelf, a lamp with a soft yellow glow. Then I picked up the phone and called the local women's shelter. I have a spare room, I said. It's quiet, private, safe. The woman on the other end paused, then asked, would you be open to short-term placement for transitional residents? Just a few weeks at a time, I said yes. That was 3 months ago. Now, once every season, a woman arrives with whatever she has, sometimes just a suitcase. Sometimes only silence. I give them 2 months. Rent-free. No questions about the past. Just a soft landing. A chance to exhale. Last week, Poppy arrived. She was in her 50s like me, wore a raincoat too big for her shoulders, and carried one cardboard box taped shut with care. Her eyes were tired, but not broken. There was something in them that looked like fire trying to find air. I opened the door for her and said, welcome. She stepped inside, looked around the room, then at me. I handed her the key. You're safe now. She didn't cry. She just nodded and set the box down gently on the floor. I left her alone after that. Some people need conversation. Some need space. What they all need is dignity. This house, once filled with whispered betrayals and thinly veiled grabs for power, has changed. It's no longer a battleground. It's a sanctuary. And me, I am still here. Not as a woman who was erased, but one who rewrote her own story. And now, when the light hits the reading chair just right, I sit with my coffee, never tea, and let the peace settle in deep. Because this space is mine, and I've filled it with something stronger than bitterness. I've filled it with purpose.